The first shock. The galaxy was silent when the human fleet entered the battle zone. Every screen across the Empire showed the same picture, a handful of human ships drifting into position. They looked small, weak, and outdated, compared to the shining armada of the alien empire. Alien generals laughed, calling them fools, saying this fight would end in minutes, but no one expected what happened next. The first human ship moved forward, its engines burning bright instead of standing. Back it rushed head-on toward the alien line. The alien commander smirked. Sure, this was suicide. Yet in seconds, the humans did something strange. They split into 3 groups, each moving in unpredictable patterns. Alien weapons fired, beams of light tore through space, but most shots missed. The humans were not slow. They were faster than expected, weaving through fire like dancers. One alien cruiser was hit by a human torpedo. It should have been nothing. The torpedo was weak compared to galactic standards, but somehow the cruiser's shield collapsed and the explosion tore into its hull. Gasps echoed across the Empire's command halls. How could such a weak weapon bring down one of their strongest ships? Panic did not come yet, but whispers started. Aliens watching the battle wondered if something was wrong with their shields. Others said the humans must be lucky. But luck does not repeat itself. And within minutes, another alien ship fell, then another. The human fleet was small, but their pilots moved with a kind of madness. They did not fear death. They closed in even when surrounded. Alien ships tried to cut them off, but the humans slipped through. Each loss to the Empire felt heavy, not because of the damage, but because of the shame. No one had ever seen a primitive species fight like this. A young alien officer asked his superior, "Why are humans risking everything with such weak weapons?" The superior frowned and gave no answer, because deep inside he too felt uneasy. Why were humans not using stronger ships? Why did they come with so little? Unless they had something else hidden, the battle grew more chaotic. Human ships burned, but they kept fighting. Even when outnumbered, they struck at the Empire's weakest points. Their weapons were simple: missiles, torpedoes, railguns, things the Empire considered toys, yet each strike landed with precision. Alien commanders realized this was not random. It was planned. A captured broadcast from a human captain was played on alien screens. "We do not need more than this," the human said calmly. "This is enough to show you what we are capable of." His voice carried no fear, only certainty. Aliens listening felt a chill in their bones. The Empire tried to respond with brute strength. They launched a wave of heavy ships, but the humans only grew more dangerous. Instead of retreating, they attacked the biggest vessels directly. They swarmed like predators, striking and vanishing before the Empire could react. In the capital world, leaders of the Empire gathered. Some laughed nervously, saying humans were only lucky. Others argued this was no luck, it was skill. Reports arrived too quickly. Too many. Ships lost to call it coincidence. The Empire's confidence began to crack on the battlefield. The alien commander ordered a desperate move. He demanded all weapons fire on the humans at once. A storm of energy rained down. Explosions lit the void. Smoke and fire covered the human fleet. Silence fell as aliens waited to see wreckage, but out of the smoke came human ships. Damaged, burning, yet still fighting. They moved like ghosts, unstoppable. Fear spread faster than the fire. The first shock was not that humans had won. They had not. Not yet. The shock was that they refused to lose. With weak weapons and fragile ships, they still stood. They fought with a spirit that no Empire weapon could crush, and that spirit spread. Fear across the stars. Whispers grew louder in council chambers. If humans could do this with their weakest weapons, what would happen if they used their strongest ones? What if these battles were only a test? What if the real human power had not even begun? Aliens stared at the screens with wide eyes, their laughter gone, their pride shaken. They came expecting an easy victory. Instead, they saw something terrifying. A small fleet holding against a mighty empire. The galaxy had just received its first warning. Humans were not weak. They were only waiting, and that thought was more dangerous than any weapon. Whispers in the council and the high halls of the Galactic Council. Silence pressed heavier than stone. The news of the first clash had arrived, and it spread like fire through dry grass. Reports said the human fleet had survived against impossible odds. Alien ministers shifted in their seats, their eyes cold, but filled with unease. Whispers began, the kind that creep like shadows in the dark. They are holding back, one elder hissed. No, it is only chance, another replied quickly, though his voice trembled. But deep inside, every council member feared the same thought. If these were humans' weakest weapons, what was hidden in the dark vaults of Earth? A hollow screen lit the chamber, showing the burning wrecks of Empire cruisers. The image was not just loss, it was humiliation. Never before had a young race struck so fiercely at the mighty. The councilors stared, wondering how a species, without galactic technology, could cause such wounds, and worse, why they chose to fight with such restraint. In a private corner, two commanders spoke in low tones. They could have used forbidden tech, but they didn't, one said. They could have revealed something new, but they didn't. The other answered, and both understood the truth. Silence was louder than weapons. The humans had given no answers, and that silence became poison in every alien mind. Rumors spread like infection. In military academies, young cadets asked, "What if humanity is testing us?" In marketplaces, traders whispered, "What if this was only the first layer of their power?" Fear became currency, traded in every corner of the galaxy. The council leader, a creature with silver scales and cold eyes, slammed the table. "We cannot allow panic to rule us," he declared. But even his voice cracked at the edges, because behind him, screens showed another truth. Humans were advancing again. Small, fleets, simple weapons, but each strike was precise and sharp. A scientist entered the hall with trembling hands. She held data from a captured human missile. "Their weapons are primitive, yes," she admitted, "but the way they use them is beyond logic. They fight as if every soldier is ready to die, and yet they live again and again." The council stared, for this was worse than advanced weapons. This was willpower, raw and unshaken. A general muttered under his breath, "If their weak weapons do this, then their strongest could end us." The words were not meant to be heard, but they echoed across the chamber like thunder. No one dared argue that night. Across the Empire worlds, strange stories took root. Sailors swore they saw human ships vanish like ghosts. Farmers whispered that Earth was building hidden arsenals. Children were told to fear the dark sky because humans might be waiting there. Panic was no longer in battlefields, it was in hearts. The humans, however, said nothing. Their fleets appeared, fought, and disappeared again. They sent no threats. They made no boasts. This quiet confidence was more terrifying than any scream, because only a predator stays silent before the final strike. An emergency meeting was called. Leaders of dozens of species filled the chamber. Voices rose, arguments clashed. Some shouted to crush Earth before it grew stronger. Others begged for peace, fearing what hidden weapons might awaken. And in the middle of it all, humanity stayed silent. Their silence was the loudest voice in the galaxy. The council could not sleep. Night after night, new reports came. Human fleets breaking traps. Human ships surviving impossible odds. Alien officers refused to serve at the front lines. Soldiers trembled at the thought of facing humans, for every battle was no longer a fight. It was a message, and the message was simple. This is not even our best. In the end, one conclusion spread through the galaxy like poison in the blood. Humans were dangerous not because of what they used, but because of what they refused to use. Every alien mind asked the same question. If this is not their strongest, then what is? And so the whispers in the council became fear in the stars. Empires that once mocked Earth now watched with shaking hands, and in the shadows humans kept moving, calm, quiet, and waiting. The galaxy had not yet seen humanity's strongest weapons, but already aliens panicked. Uneasy discoveries in a hidden research station above a dying star. Alien scientists worked in silence. On the tables lay pieces of human weapons gathered from the wreckage. Burnt metal, shattered missile casings, fragments of railgun rounds. At first glance, they looked like scraps from an ancient war. The Empire expected secrets, but what they found only deepened the mystery. "These are primitive," one scientist muttered, tapping the rusted edge of a torpedo. "No plasma cores, No quantum triggers, nothing advanced? Another bent closer, her eyes wide. And yet these destroyed our finest shields. They exchanged glances, the air thick with disbelief. Reports poured in from other labs across the galaxy. Every team studied human weapons. Every team said the same thing. Nothing here was advanced. Nothing here belonged in a galactic war. And still, alien cruisers had fallen. Fleets had scattered and commanders had panicked. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. A council general arrived to see the results for himself. He slammed his claws on the table, demanding answers. The scientists only lowered their heads. General, their weapons are crude, but the way they are used is beyond logic. He stared, not understanding. They fight as if weakness is strength, and that makes them dangerous, the scientist whispered in the corridors of the Empire Fleet Academy. Rumors spread. Cadets spoke of human missiles that bent through space like predators. Others swore human torpedoes carried minds of their own. But the truth was stranger. The weapons were ordinary. It was the humans who were extraordinary. Battle recordings played in council chambers. Aliens watched as human ships moved with impossible coordination. Their missiles did not miss because their pilots guided them with insane courage. Their railguns tore through shields because humans fired at the exact weak point again and again, and they never hesitated. Not even when death was certain. One young researcher dared to suggest a theory. They are not hiding stronger weapons, he said quietly. They are hiding stronger minds. The room fell silent, because in that moment the council realized something far worse than secret arsenals. Humanity itself was the weapon. Across alien space, fear grew heavier. Soldiers refused to believe they were defeated by primitive guns, so they made up stories to comfort themselves. They said humans had invisible cannons, or ghost ships guiding them. But inside, every soldier knew the truth. Humans had won with nothing. More than courage, skill, and patience on one empire world. A crowd gathered in the streets. Holoscreens showed images of captured human weapons. The people laughed at first, calling them toys. But when they heard how many ships those toys had destroyed, the laughter turned to silence, and then to panic. If this was only the beginning, what would come next? A secret meeting took place between rival empires. Old enemies sat together for the first time in centuries. Their voices were low, their eyes filled with dread. If humanity truly holds stronger weapons, none of us will survive, one leader said. But what if this is their true plan, to let us destroy ourselves with fear? Another replied. They argued, but no answer came. Only more questions. In the middle of all this, humanity stayed quiet. No announcements, no threats, no promises. Their silence was more terrifying than any weapon test, because the galaxy could not measure what it could not see. And every empire wondered if tomorrow would bring a revelation or annihilation. A final report arrived from the research station. It contained a single line that spread through the council like fire. If these are their weakest weapons, then we pray we never see their strongest. No one dared speak against it. No one dared laugh. For the unease was now a shadow over every world. The uneasy discoveries brought no comfort. They brought only fear. The galaxy had faced human weapons, but it had not yet faced humanity. The human silence. The council chamber was filled with tension. Dozens of alien leaders sat in silence, their eyes fixed on the glowing holoscreen. Messages had been sent to Earth, each more desperate than the last. But the humans had given no answer. Their silence pressed heavier than any weapon. They must respond, one leader shouted, his voice cracked like glass, breaking the silence for only a moment. But still, no reply came. Days passed, then weeks. Fleets moved across the stars, yet humanity said nothing, and the galaxy began to understand that silence was the deadliest answer of all. On the battlefields, alien commanders demanded humans reveal their strongest weapons. They fired taunts across channels. "Show us what you are hiding," they screamed. But humans stayed quiet. Their ships moved without words. Their captains fought without boasting. It was as if humanity did not even care about proving strength. The quiet became unbearable. In alien academies, students whispered that Earth was preparing something huge. In marketplaces, traders swore humans had hidden weapons under their oceans. Farmers pointed to the sky at night. warning their children that the silence meant danger. Fear spread wider than the battles themselves. In one battle, an alien fleet tried to corner a group of human ships. They broadcast threats, demanding surrender, or display of stronger weapons. The humans gave no response. Instead, their ships slid into formation and struck with the same old torpedoes and railguns. Yet again, alien cruisers fell, and still humans said nothing. This quiet victory was more terrifying than any roar of triumph. An alien officer trembled at his console. "They fight like they have infinite patience," he whispered. "They are waiting for something, and we cannot see what it is." His commander looked away, unable to deny the truth. Back in the council halls, endless debates raged. Some demanded full-scale war against Earth. Others begged for peace before the silence broke into thunder. But no one agreed, and every passing day without human words made the galaxy more unstable. The silence became a kind of language, and that language said one thing. Humans were not afraid, because only the strong can stay silent when surrounded. Only predators wait in silence before the strike. Spies were sent to Earth, desperate to uncover hidden arsenals. They found nothing but ordinary factories and old warships being repaired, yet the humans fought across the stars with power greater than fleets twice their size. The spies returned with empty hands, but with fear in their eyes, for they realized that nothing was hidden, and that was even worse. On a distant world, a crowd gathered to watch a human broadcast captured from the front lines. A young human soldier sat calmly, his face tired but steady. When asked why Earth fought with such weak weapons, he gave only one answer: "Because we don't need the stronger ones." The words were short, simple, and heavy like mountains. The crowd fell silent, their fear growing tenfold in the Empire fleets. Discipline began to crack. Soldiers muttered that the silence meant humans were saving something for the final moment. Commanders shouted at them to focus. But even they were afraid. Every battle felt like the edge of a cliff. Every human attack felt like a warning, as if the true storm had not yet begun. In one secret session, an alien scientist told the council, "Perhaps this silence is the weapon. Perhaps they have nothing greater than this, but their refusal to speak makes us believe they do." The room froze, for no one could deny it. Silence had become a shadow heavier than fire, a shadow that stretched across every world in the galaxy. The humans remained calm, patient, and quiet. Their fleets kept fighting with the same simple ships. They won battles not through power but through mystery, and the mystery itself became a weapon sharper than any blade. And so, the galaxy trembled, in fear, not because of what humans had revealed, but because of what they refused to reveal. And in that silence, panic grew, for every alien heart carried the same thought: if this is their silence, what will their voice be? Collapse of alien confidence. The Empire fleets once stood like unshakable walls across the stars, but after months of silence from humanity, those walls began to crack, not from battle losses alone, but from something deeper. Confidence itself was dying. In the vast command ships, alien officers argued with each other. Some said humans were bluffing, others swore humans were hiding doomsday weapons. Every order felt like a gamble, every move felt like walking into a trap. And the worst part was that humans never explained. They fought, they disappeared, and they remained quiet. On the front lines, soldiers hesitated. Their claws hovered above the fire controls. Their tentacles froze over screens because no one wanted to be the next victim of a weak human torpedo. Stories spread faster than truth. Pilots told tales of human railguns that never missed. Others swore human missiles followed ships even through hyperspace. None of it was proven, but all of it was believed. Fear spread like smoke through the fleets. Discipline broke down. An entire squadron once refused to advance. Their commander screamed at them, but the soldiers would not move. They said the humans were waiting. They said advancing meant walking into death, and no punishment could change their minds. Back in the council, panic turned into anger. Leaders slammed tables, demanded explanations, demanded action. But behind their shouting, their eyes betrayed fear. They saw the reports, fleets retreating. Before even engaging, they knew morale was collapsing, and they knew silence was winning. One fleet commander tried to rally his soldiers. He gave a speech, telling them humans were weak. that their silence meant they had nothing left. But halfway through the battle, his flagship exploded under a simple human strike. The recording of his speech cut off with fire and screams. The image spread across the galaxy, and with it, confidence. Burned away, whole planets began to panic. Civilians dug shelters, children cried at night. Farmers whispered that humans could strike any day. Traders sold food at double the price, because fear itself had become an enemy, and humanity had planted it without saying a word. In one desperate attempt, the Empire gathered its largest armada. Thousands of ships lined up across the void. Their presence was meant to intimidate. But when human scouts appeared, something strange happened. The alien fleet did not attack. Instead, small groups drifted backward. Then more, until the entire armada began to scatter without a single shot. Fired, fear had broken them before battle even began. A young alien officer whispered what everyone already thought. "We are not fighting humans anymore, we are fighting our own fear of them." And in that truth lay the collapse. Confidence, once their greatest weapon, had turned to dust. In secret halls, rival empires met again. This time they did not argue. This time they only asked one question. If humans ever reveal their strongest weapons, who among us will survive? No one answered because no one believed survival was possible. In human command centers, silence still ruled. The officers watched reports of alien retreats, their faces calm, their voices steady. They did not celebrate. They did not boast. They only waited. And the waiting itself was enough to shatter entire fleets. Confidence collapsed like glass under pressure, and with it the galaxy learned a cruel lesson. Humans had not needed their strongest weapons. They had destroyed the will of their enemies without firing them. And when the will to fight dies, no empire can survive. The panic grew into a storm that reached every star system. Whispers became screams, doubt became retreat, and fleets that once ruled the galaxy now trembled at the sight of a single human ship. The collapse was complete, not in fire, not in blood, but in silence. And that silence was more powerful than any weapon ever built. The great stand, the galaxy, could no longer live in whispers. Fear had become too heavy, too sharp, cutting into every council and every fleet. So the leaders of the great empires made a choice. They would gather every ship, every soldier, every weapon, and they would end humanity in one final strike. It was called the Great Stand. An armada unlike any ever seen filled the stars. Thousands of warships from dozens of species floated in formation. Their lights burned like a wall of fire, stretching from one end of the void to the other. For the first time, enemies stood side by side. Predators who once hunted each other now pointed their weapons at Earth. In the council chamber, a speech echoed through the galaxies. Today we end the fear. Today we crush humanity before their silence becomes our end. The message spread to every world. Crowds cheered, though the cheers were thin and nervous, because even as they shouted, doubt gnawed at their hearts in the darkness of space. The human fleet appeared, not larger, not stronger, just the same small force. Burned ships repaired, old hulls patched, weapons unchanged, yet their presence alone was enough to silence the entire armada. The alien commanders barked orders. Fire everything, crush them, now. And the void lit up with endless streams of fire. Beams, missiles, cannons, all unleashed at once. A storm so vast it seemed to tear the stars apart. When the smoke cleared, human ships still moved, scarred, broken, but alive. They pressed forward with the same old weapons. Railguns cracked, torpedoes flew, missiles burned, and alien ships began to fall, one by one, then faster. Then in clusters, panic spread again. How are they still alive? Screamed an alien captain. But no answer came because no one understood. How could such weak weapons keep tearing down the strongest fleets in the galaxy? The humans never shouted, never boasted. Their voices stayed quiet. Their ships moved like shadows. And with each silent strike, more alien soldiers broke. The Great Stand was supposed to be strength, but it became a mirror showing only weakness in the heart of the armada. One alien admiral gave a desperate order. Humans, stop hiding, show us your strongest weapons. But across the channel came no reply, only silence, the same silence that had haunted them for months. the silence that now felt heavier than the firestorm itself. Ships began to break formation. Fleets began to scatter. Alliance turned to chaos. Species who had sworn to fight together now abandoned one another. Every mind carried the same fear. If this is not their strongest, what happens if they ever decide to use it? The humans pressed deeper. They did not reveal anything new. They only fought with the same simple weapons. But the galaxy saw something worse than hidden arsenals. They saw that humanity did not need them. They saw that humanity was strong enough without them. On the ground across alien worlds, civilians stared at the broadcasts. Some wept, some prayed, some hid. Children asked their parents what would happen if humans truly unleashed their best. But no parent had the courage to answer. The Great Stand meant to break humanity. Instead broke the galaxy itself. Ships burned, alliances shattered. Fear spread deeper than ever before. And through it all, humanity stayed calm. They had not shouted, they had not threatened, they had simply fought. And still their strongest weapons remained unseen. The galaxy realized the truth. Humanity had never been tested. The real war had not even begun, and that thought was enough to end hope. The revelation, the stars were quiet after the Great Stand. Wreckage drifted like ghosts, broken ships spinning slowly through the void. The galaxy had thrown everything at humanity, and humanity had answered with the same silence, the same restraint, the same unshaken calm. On council worlds, leaders sat in their chambers, their faces pale, their voices gone. Once they had spoken with pride, now they whispered with fear. They all asked the same question. What will humans do now? Reports came in from across the Armada. Fleets had scattered, discipline had collapsed, soldiers refused to return to their posts. Whole units vanished into the dark. Some fled to distant stars. Others swore never to fight again. The great empires had been broken, and yet humanity had not revealed their strongest weapons. In the silence that followed, the galaxy expected a declaration, a demand for surrender, a call for tribute, a show of dominance, but none came. Instead, the humans remained quiet, repairing their ships, guiding their fleets, and waiting. The waiting itself became unbearable. Panic spread through every world. Was humanity preparing for the final strike? Was humanity gathering their true arsenal, or was the silence itself the message? Then at last the galaxy heard a voice. A human commander appeared on intercepted channels. His uniform was scarred. His ship behind him was battered, but his eyes were steady, calm, unbroken. His words were few, but they fell like thunder. "We have not yet begun to fight," he said. The sentence was short, but it shook the galaxy. Council chambers fell into silence. Entire fleets froze at their stations. Civilians wept in terror, because if humanity had not begun, then everything they had already faced was only the beginning. Alien historians would later write that this was the moment the galaxy changed, not the battles, not the weapons, not the victories, but the realization that humanity had fought with restraint. And still they had broken empires. The thought of what humanity could do without restraint became a nightmare that no mind could escape. Across alien worlds, parents told children to fear the silence of Earth. Soldiers prayed never to face a human fleet again, and leaders met in secret. Their only goal was survival. None dared speak of revenge, none dared imagine striking Earth again because the humans had left them with something worse than defeat. They had left them with imagination, and imagination made the fear endless. The galaxy would never know how many weapons humans truly had. They would never know if Earth kept hidden arsenals or if the truth was simpler, that humanity itself was the greatest weapon. Their courage, their unity, their silence, and their refusal to show everything. The revelation was clear. Humans had not needed their strongest weapons to win, and they might never need them, because the idea of those unseen weapons was enough to paralyze the stars. On the last day of the war, human fleets drifted back toward Earth. They did not chase, they did not conquer, they simply turned away, leaving behind a galaxy trembling in its own shadow, and in that silence, every alien heart carried the same haunting thought. If this is not their war, then what happens when it begins?